In this video, I'll show you July 11th, 2021, Officer Devontae Johnson of the Moorefield Police Department in Virginia initiated a traffic stop on Hardy County Circuit Judge C. Carter Williams for operating his vehicle with a cell phone in his hand. Judge Williams pulled over and Officer Johnson stopped his cruiser and began to walk towards the driver's side window.
How you doing, sir? The reason I'm stopping
Judge Williams.
Gotcha.
And I don't. Why did you stop me?
You had your cell phone in your hand.
I had my phone like this.
Yeah.
I just lost it. I was just looking for it. Pulled it up like this. Was not on it. I just looked in the car. Go up and look.
Okay. Why are you screaming at me?
Sir,
you have your license, registration, proof of insurance. You have your license, registration, proof of insurance.
I wasn't doing anything wrong.
You have your license, registration,
I'm
proof
not
of
going to
insurance.
give you my license and registration.
You was doing something wrong. You cannot have a handheld.
I had my phone just like this. I was not on my phone.
In what state of West Virginia you cannot have a handheld cell phone?
I drive by a lot of times, and y'all are on yours. You're never on yours, right?
Okay, I don't understand why you're yelling
on
at me.
yours.
Why are you yelling at me, sir?
I said you're never on yours.
Why are you yelling at me?
I'm not yelling at you.
Yes, you have been. I've never raised my voice at you.
Let me tell you something. You all are on yours. I was not talking.
If you read the code says that if we're conducting official business, you can be on it. I just don't know why you're yelling at me.
No, not on official business.
Okay.
Here.
Thank you, sir. Why are you so uptight? Why are you so shaky? What's going on?
I'm irritated because you pulled me over for no reason.
You had your cell phone in your hand.
I picked up my cell phone because I had it lost.
Okay.
I pulled it up here and I had my hand on it here.
Okay.
To put it in here.
You
That's
know the
what
law,
you saw.
You know the law.
So what? What if I have a cup in my hand?
You can't have a cell phone in the state of West Virginia in your hand.
Give me a ticket. It's ridiculous what you're doing.
How is it ridiculous?
It's ridiculous.
That you had your cell phone in your hand.
Because you all have yours. I've seen it many times. Y'all have yours, and you don't get pulled over.
Officer Johnson informs Judge Williams that he pulled him over because he had his cell phone in his hand while he was driving, and Judge Williams claimed he was just holding it and not using it under Section 17C-14-15 of the West Virginia Code. Quote, "A person may not drive or operate a motor vehicle on a public street or highway while texting or using a cell phone or other electronic communications device unless the use is accomplished by hands-free equipment." The statute defines using a cell phone or other electronic communication device as, quote, "holding in a person's hand or hands an electronic communication device while viewing or transmitting images or data, playing games, composing, sending, reading, viewing, accessing, browsing, transmitting, saving or retrieving email, text messages or other electronic data, or engaging in a call." Therefore, while the court would likely find that Officer Johnson had reasonable suspicion to pull Judge Williams over because he observed the cell phone in his hand, he could not be convicted for simply holding the phone unless he was actively using it during his conversation with Officer Johnson. Williams also complained multiple times about seeing police officers on their phones while driving, and Officer Johnson reminded him that the statute allowed officers to be on their phones for official business. It should be noted that Section 17C-14-15 does include a specific exception to the restriction on cell phone use for law enforcement officers, quote, in the performance of their official duties. But the statute would still prohibit officers from using their phones for personal reasons while operating a vehicle.
Hello? Yeah. You can write me a ticket or not. I don't care. I'll take it up to town. We'll go to a trial, buddy. That's fine with me. And I tell you what, the next time I see any of you on the phone, I'm stopping right there and call the state police. Any of you.
Okay.
This is how I had my phone. I reached down and got it under my seat. I pulled it up here and I was driving like this. I was not talking on it. You can look. You can look when you pull me over. See whether I was on my phone.
Why are you being like this?
I'm being it because I've seen this crap enough. And I'm tired of it.
Here you go. Here's your license, registration, proof of insurance.
Give it to me. Let me have my license now.
Also, you need to go get your license up to date because they're expired, okay?
Next time
After Officer Johnson returned his license and registration, Judge Williams quickly drove away. Shortly after the traffic stop, Judge Williams called Moorefield Police Chief Stephen Riggleman, who was also off duty, informing him that he, quote, "just had words with one of your boys." According to Chief Riggleman, Judge Williams continued to become more agitated as the phone call continued, and when Chief Riggleman told him not to call while he was at home, Judge Williams hung up. Later that evening, Judge Williams also called Moorfield's former police chief, and then Lieutenant Burrows again before showing up at the home of Moorfield Mayor Carol Zuber around 10 p.m. to complain to her about the traffic stop. While none of Judge Williams' actions were illegal, they may have violated the West Virginia Code of Judicial Conduct, which is a set of rules and ethical standards that judges must follow while in office. For instance, Rule 1.2 states that, quote, "A judge shall act at all times in a manner that promotes public confidence in the independence, integrity, and impartiality of the judiciary, and shall avoid impropriety and the appearance of impropriety, and Rule 1.3 requires that, quote, "A judge shall not abuse the prestige of judicial office to advance the personal or economic interests of the judge or others, or allow others to do so." The official comment to Rule 1.3 explains the quote. "It is improper for a judge to use or attempt to use his or her position to gain personal advantage or deferential treatment of any kind. For example, it would be improper for a judge to allude to his or her judicial status to gain favorable treatment." And encounters with traffic officials. Other standards of judicial conduct that Judge Williams may have violated include Rule 2.8b, which states that, quote, "A judge shall be patient, dignified, and courteous to litigants, jurors, witnesses, lawyers, court staff, court officials, and others with whom the judge deals in an official capacity," and Rule 3.1, which prohibits judges from participating in extrajudicial activities that will interfere with the proper performance of the judge's judicial duties, will lead to frequent disqualification of the judge, would appear. To a reasonable person to undermine the judge's independence, integrity, or impartiality, or would appear to a reasonable person to be coercive. Given the high standard of conduct that is required of judges, Judge Williams' aggressive behavior towards Officer Johnson, the use of demeaning terms to refer to Officer Johnson in the phone calls he made, and the apparent use of his judicial title to attempt to receive favorable treatment, as well as any traffic offenses he committed, could likely be considered violations of the Code of Judicial Conduct on July 15, 2021. The West Virginia Judicial Investigation Commission, which was established by the Supreme Court of Appeals of West Virginia to govern the ethical conduct of judges, filed an extraordinary complaint against Judge Williams. According to Rule 2.7 of the West Virginia Rules of Judicial Disciplinary Procedure, the typical process for handling a complaint of potential judicial misconduct allows the Commission to determine whether probable cause exists to formally charge a judge with a violation of the Code of Judicial Conduct. However, under Rule 2.14, if a judge has been convicted of a serious offense, has been indicted, or otherwise charged with a serious offense, has engaged or is currently engaging in a serious violation of the Code of Judicial Conduct, or has become unable or unwilling to perform official duties, the Commission can file an extraordinary complaint against the judge, in which case the West Virginia Supreme Court must determine whether probable cause exists. If probable cause is found, the Supreme Court can remand the case to allow the Commission to file a public, formal statement against the judge. The Judicial Hearing Board will then hold a public hearing, and if a violation of the Code of Judicial Conduct is proven by clear and convincing evidence, Rule 4.12 states that the judge may be subject to several forms of discipline. The complaint filed against Judge Williams alleged many violations of the Code of Judicial Conduct, including the specific rules we discussed earlier in this episode. The allegations stemmed from his conduct during the traffic stop, and his subsequent behavior, as well as several other traffic stop incidents. The complaint also included allegations that Judge Williams engaged in a pattern of public office for private gain and violating state traffic laws, as the investigation revealed several other instances where Judge Williams potentially used his title to avoid tickets for running a stop sign, driving with an expired registration, and, on 2 occasions, driving without a seatbelt. An additional complaint was also filed against Judge Williams for violations of the Code of Judicial Conduct based on a July 21, 2020 incident where Judge Williams allegedly walked out of Walmart without paying for the items in his cart. Around the time that the complaint was filed against Judge Williams, Chief Riggleman prepared a ticket charging him with improper use of a cell phone and driving without a valid license. Judge Williams negotiated a plea deal that allowed him to plead no contest to the driving, without a valid license charge in exchange for dismissal of the cell phone charge. On September 30, 2021, the Supreme Court determined that there was probable cause to believe that Judge Williams had violated the Code of Judicial Conduct and remanded the matter to the Judicial Investigation Commission, which filed an 11-count formal statement of charges on October 25. Judge Williams was scheduled to go before the Judicial Hearing Board on February 23, 2022, but the Commission filed an additional formal statement of charges against Judge Williams on February 14, and his hearing was postponed. The new charges stemmed from yet another incident where Judge Williams walked out of Walmart without paying for his merchandise on August 18, 2020. Although Walmart sources reported that Judge Williams appeared to be distracted both times he allegedly left without paying for his items, the judge failed to report these incidents, which could also be an ethical violation. As of the date of this episode, the charges against Judge Williams are still pending, and his hearing is scheduled for the summer of 2022. Overall, Officer Johnson gets an A for maintaining a calm and professional demeanor throughout the interaction, continuing to treat Judge Williams with respect in the face of verbal abuse, and attempting to right Judge Williams a ticket despite his attempts to use his judicial clout to avoid the consequences of his actions. While Officer Johnson ultimately did not issue a citation to Judge Williams, this was a direct order from Lieutenant Burrows, and Officer Johnson appeared to have the intention to cite Judge Williams before receiving Lieutenant Burrows' phone call. It is difficult to fault Officer Johnson for following the orders of his superior rather than risking his career to cite a judge for a minor traffic infraction. And this encounter demonstrates the systematic limitations that are placed on officer discretion and how a single officer cannot change the culture of their department. I commend Officer Johnson for remaining calm and cordial despite Judge Williams' behavior and for making a legitimate attempt to impartially fulfill his duty as an officer. Judge Williams gets an F for berating Officer Johnson for simply doing his job, attempting to use his judicial position to gain favorable treatment, and engaging in a pattern of consistent disregard for traffic laws as a preamble to the West Virginia Code of Judicial Conduct states, quote, "A.T. Independent, fair, and impartial judiciary is indispensable to our system of justice. Judges must respect and honor the judicial office as a public trust and strive to maintain and enhance confidence in the legal system. Judges should maintain the dignity of judicial office at all times and avoid both impropriety and the appearance of impropriety in their professional and personal lives. They should aspire at all times to conduct that ensures the greatest possible public confidence in their independence, impartiality, integrity, and competence. When judges behave the way Judge Williams did in this interaction, it erodes the public's confidence in the judicial system, which many citizens already have very little respect for. This encounter, as well as the additional incidents that were discovered during the investigation, seriously call into question whether Judge Williams has the necessary temperament to serve as a fair. Thank you very much for watching the video. Subscribe our channel for next video.